Hey guys, it's Joey Gurwin. Actually at my dining room. Just a little introduction from me. Again, my name is Joey Gurwin. I am an owner and record producer at Oranjudio recording studio here in Columbus, Ohio. I also teach the first year students music production at grooveu, also in Columbus, Ohio. And I was asked to do a very general woodshedding video on music production. So I'm gonna kind of jump into that here in a moment. I just wanted to initially apologize that I'm just talking to you through an iPhone. I'm much better at person-to-person interaction or being in the studio, but times as they are, you're at my dining room table, so we'll take it at that. And before I get started on music or song production, what I'd like to talk a little bit about is just music in general and what appeals to me about music, both as a listener and somebody who produces it, somebody who writes it, and why I think it sort of stands uniquely amongst all other possible kind of art mediums. And what's really, really unique to me about music is that I wrote down a couple of notes, and the first thing that I wrote was that music is manipulation. And I mean that in the most positive way possible. And when I say that music is manipulation, what I mean is it's unique in its ability as an art to make somebody feel something, think something, even move a certain way, and it is your job often as the person producing or writing this music to take your emotions or your thoughts and implant them into a listener who might be 1,000 miles away, who might be listening to this record 30 years after you released it, and being able to convey the thoughts and emotions of a moment over the spans of space-time is very, very unique to the artistic medium that is music, which makes me really, really love it. It's one of the things that I really, really just can't get enough of when it comes to music. Now, that being said, that brings me to the topic that I kind of wanted to tackle today. And the topic that I wanted to tackle today, because I don't have, my console here, I'm not here to show you guys kind of slick production tricks and techniques. What I wanted to talk about is headspace when you're producing a record or producing a song or writing a song that will be produced. And I think the main thing that I wanted to really, really dive into or hammer home a little bit was intention. And when I say intention, what I mean is that it is up to me or up to you as somebody who is producing a song or somebody who is writing a song that will be produced to decide what the intention of that song or of that record are. And that kind of will lead me down this path that we're going to go down here in just a moment. But it's really, really important that sort of what type of vehicle that you're building when you are writing this song. And so I sort of, real quickly wrote down kind of some really broad categories of things that somebody might want their song to do, what the intention behind that song is. And we'll kind of dive into them each a little bit individually as we go through the video. Now, the first thing that, going back centuries and centuries, that you might want your song to do, or you might want your record to do, is to tell a story. Very often, going back to, tribal Aboriginal songs and and medieval sonnets. A lot of these songs are just designed to, to give you a narrative, point A to point B. A lot of cultures' histories were oral traditions that were passed down from generation to generation in the form of song. And so this is sort of this communication of a story is actually one of the oldest intentions of a song that I can think of. And so that might be one of your intentions, or the intention of a song is to tell a story, to create a character or to create a narrative, and to give a very linear story. Another intention that you might have in a song is to convey a message to the listener. And we'll dive a little bit more deeply in that. But the what you are serving to the listener with this music or with this song is the message that this song brings. Another thing that you might have intended with the song, and this is also, goes back, generations and generations, and is probably might be the largest swath of the intention of music, is to make somebody feel something. My intention is to make you feel sad, or to make you feel happy, or to make you feel excited. The taking of my emotions, or what I want your emotions to reflect, and then to craft and construct a song or a production that will make you feel that exact same way that I felt, or that I want you to feel. And so your intention with that song might be to create an emotional response with somebody. Another intention that a person might have in their song production is to make somebody sing. This is the meat and potatoes of pop music. Is you're trying to craft a song that is a sing-along, that somebody will instantly know this chorus when it comes up, and they're just, they know the song as soon as it comes on. They can't wait for the chorus. They can't wait to sing along. Everybody wants to sing it together. So your intention with that song might be to make somebody sing. Again, sort of in that same vein, sometimes your intention of the music is nothing more than to make somebody dance. And this is, also, going back, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. Sometimes the intention of the production is solely just to get somebody, out of their chair and onto the dance floor. And every generation has a different, stylistic way of doing it, but the intention is all the same, is to get somebody moving, to create a song that, as James Brown said, get up off that thing. Another intention you might have with song is to make somebody act. And this is, these sort of call to action songs that, these protest songs that have not just, like we were talking about before, the conveying of a message, but have an action attached to that message. And we'll go into that a little bit more here in a little bit. And then the last one that this is one that I just sort of wrote down right before starting this video, is sometimes you just want a song to display virtuosity. And we'll see, just to display the technical skill of yourself as a musician, or a group of people as musicians. And there's no other reason for, you're just trying to document virtuosity, which is an entirely valid reason to also produce a record or to produce a song. And so what I want to do, those are sort of my, my big list. I'm sure that there's, sub lists, or we could have a discussion on, one or the other, but I just wanted to dive into, these kind of ideas and talk about how your intention going into the production process is very much going to dictate everything, from first chord written to, to final mix. Your intention of the song is going to dictate the process in which the song is made. And so I just wanted to, dive a little bit into that and talk about that in the most general terms, because once again, I'm here at my dining room table. And so what I'd like to do is kind of talk about a few of these songs and the intention behind the songs. We will post a link of like a Spotify playlist or something of some of the songs that I mention, and other songs with that intention, just so you guys can listen later on, and hopefully this helps you with with the production process on your end, when you are deciding, hey, what is the intention of this song? What am I really, really trying to accomplish or get the listener to do or feel on their end? And that's going to dictate, everything from your songwriting to the arrangement to the mix to the master. So first, let's talk about, songs that tell a story. And these are really, really, and I love them. And they're really, really kind of like straightforward. The idea of these story songs are just to, in my head, is just to keep you engaged on the narrative from point A to point B to point C, wherever you're trying to go. Maybe develop this character a little bit. And so often with the production of these songs, to me, the most important thing is the story, is that you are bringing the personality to the narrative of this story. And some story songs that really, really accomplish sort of what they're going for. I wrote A Little Boy Named Sue and Folsom Prison Blues by excuse me, sorry. Little Boy Named Sue and Folsom Prison Blues, and then The Hurricane, I think, are really, really good examples of story songs. Now, you could, obviously it's not just like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan who could write, a solid story song. The Grateful Dead were really, really accomplished at writing songs like this, like, Dupree's Diamond Blues. In fact, a ton of the early blues stuff was often very, very narrative. To me, when I think about, the old, specifically like the old Delta blues songs, it was always kind of, telling this narrative. Even if you think about like Charlie Daniels, which is, back old country, or not even old country. He's telling this narrative about, some fiddle contest with the devil. And to me, like all these songs, kind of what they have in common is that the story and the narrative sort of takes center stage, even as, some of them might be more musically complex than others, but I actually don't think that it matters. I think that what is important is the story. And so, going back to my first two examples, using Johnny Cash or Bob Dylan as an example, these were accomplished with like really, really simple rotating chord structures, simple rhythms. There was actually, there was very little there that ever distracted you from the story that was being told. And then once you go to the mix process and how this is going, there's not even a ton of emphasis put on melody. The emphasis is very much on the story and the personality of the story. if you listen to, again, like Boy Named Sue, the melody is, is a throwaway. This is, I'm here to tell you a story, and whether that story is from my perspective or from the perspective of some character that I've created, the focus on the production of these songs is on the narrative, and everything else is secondary or tertiary to the telling of that story. So everything that I produce when approaching a song like this is just to kind of, to keep this story moving. So if I feel like the song might be lagging a little bit in energy and that it's not engaging, then we might change the tempo up a little bit, or create something that adds a sense of urgency, like maybe some more subdivisions or something like that. And so to me, a story song is a really, really ancient process, and is sort of like the simplest of all productions. You just have to have a great story to tell, and to develop this character and this story within the song. And I think that it's a really fun exercise. It's also a really, really pretty straightforward production process, and so that's something that I really, really love about the story song. Now when we go to songs that, I'm kind of jumping around in order. When I think of songs that are there to make you feel something, this is as, again, as old as time, and there are tons of songs that are designed to make you feel one way or the other. There's I could go through a huge list of very sad songs or very, very happy songs. Isn't She Lovely is just such a it's just such a happy song, and it makes me feel, I don't know who Stevie Wonder is talking about, but I've never met this person, but I feel the love that Stevie felt when writing this song about a child. And so I think that when we talk about conveying the feelings through production, that becomes a more complex process, because people will often, obviously the chordal relationships and how the composition of a song will dictate how the listener feels. I think that if we put Isn't She Lovely by Stevie Wonder in this super minor chordal, then all of a sudden it doesn't seem like such a happy song anymore. All of a sudden it's a very sad song, or very, angry song, or whatever it is. So instrumentation and the energy that you bring in the composition is going to dictate how it makes a person feel. So if we're talking about producing a song that that makes people happy, we're gonna be using like very, very bright instruments and make kind of like this very open, free sounding production, where a song that is designed to make somebody feel sad. The first song that came up was like Mad World. I think it's the Gary Jules version. It just sounds so sad, and lyrically it's super sad, but you could take those lyrics out of the song and just listen to that piano progression and you feel sad. So the use of your chordal relationships and your chord changes are going to really, really dictate how you're making a person feel. And so, and not just the instruments and the, are not just the chord structures that you're using, but the instruments and the way in which they're processed. Like I said, I might want to make, this happy song feel, really bright and really open and, kind of this free song, where if I'm producing a song that's designed to make somebody feel sad or to convey sadness, I'm going to do everything that I can to sort of lean into the isolation that somebody might feel, or, or a sense of loneliness, being alone in a room, and kind of distant and far away to reach. So I think that I would produce both of those songs obviously very, very differently, and I would rely on different methods to create either a sense of isolation or a sense of freedom. You're not very likely to use something like a gang vocal when you're trying to make a song feel sad and isolated. And so I think that sometimes this is the most challenging intention that you can have with a song, is how to make somebody feel the way that you want them to feel. And there's a lot of tools in your toolbox to do this. And I think that, like I said, chordal structure, the way that you mix a tune, the way that, whether you're on the front end or the back end of the rhythm in the song, the use of time signatures, I think, also helps a lot. Something in 4/4, in my head, can feel a lot, happier and driving versus something that's gonna be like in 3/4, or even, something in like 7/8 that's gonna give somebody like almost a sense of anxiety, constant anticipation, like when is it coming? And so I think that there's a lot of different tools in your toolbox that can really manipulate somebody into feeling the way that you want them to feel when they're experiencing this song. Moving on to the next intention of a song, I think that I wrote message songs, or these call to action songs, and sort of the first ones that came up to my, to the forefront of my mind were songs like, Fight the Power, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, any, Rage Against the Machine song. And you can tell that with the production of all these songs, what is put in the forefront is the emotion, not necessarily trying to indicate an emotion into you, but to convey what their thoughts and emotions are, and that you should act on that. And so I think with the delivery of these songs, we go to like Rage, and you can hear, quite literally, you can hear the rage and the passion that that the speakers is delivering with. The same thing with like Chuck D and these, and Fight the Power, or any kind of Public Enemy tune. These felt like protest songs, and they felt like that the person delivering this message was about to bust open at the seams, and the production really kind of leans into this. Everything else is sort of a backdrop to this, to this person at a virtual podium, if you will, that is really, really like hammering home a message. Again, not a bunch of musical complexities. It's mostly stuff that is there to be a plate on which this message is delivered. So things like, kind of simple drum loops, or in the case of Rage, there's not a ton of musical complexity there. It's just, there to like drive one or two chords, like a very simple rhythm that drives and conveys, this sense of urgency. And I think that is the protest song. That is the call of action song. A ton of, I'll even go, to like, sort of the Sex Pistols stuff in the, in the late 70s, early 80s. The musical complexity, like, nobody cared. Like, it didn't matter if you could even play the instrument. What was important was that you were conveying this, this power and this, this rebellion through your music. And I think that across, whether it's, punk rock or hip hop, the intention is there, and your job is to really, really put the spotlight on that, on the message and the messenger. So I think that is sort of the call to action song. Now, songs that with the intention of creating, these sort of sing-alongs, and this is sometimes, just as challenging as the song that's meant to, convey an emotion or meant to pull out an emotion. And sort of the songs that I have, I sort of, I was trying to think of like, sing-along songs in a bar or whatever, and kind of the first two songs I came up were like the "Don't Stop Believin'" by Journey, and Bob Marley's "Three Little Birds," and what most of these sing-along songs have in common, if that's your intention, is this simple and accessible vocal melody, because obviously if you're writing a song that has this insane vocal melody that is, that takes 2 months to learn, it's not going to end up being a sing-along. A sing-along has like this very, very like relatively simple melody that makes sense to even the most common of music listeners, the most uneducated music listeners. So, using very simple chord changes and repeating them constantly. You don't throw any curveballs at people, and you usually keep those melodies really within the notes of that, of that chord that you are on right there. And what that does is it creates somebody wants to know that when the hook is coming and they want to sing along. And if you really, really execute this intention well, a person will know the chorus of your song by the second or third chorus, and that they don't even need a music education to understand this stuff. I think that these simple melodies, lyrically very simple too. We talk about like the millennial woe that's become so common in the past 10 years of music. Sometimes you don't even need to write a lyric in there, at least not a word. It can just be like a whoa or an ooh. Something that people know that it's coming, know that they can sing along to confidently, that they can, kind of, be in a bar or be with their friends or be around a campfire. You want it to be chordally something that's very accessible to somebody who might want to pick up an acoustic guitar and learn this song themselves and sing it, around a campfire, or, with their friends, or on the, the commons of a college campus somewhere. So if your intention is to create this song that is for other people to be able to sing along to, then it's really, really helpful to have very, very simple melodies, very simple chord structures again, simple lyrics that do not, that do not kind of confuse, or you're not throwing words at them that they don't even know what they are. Go back to, Three Little Birds. It's a song that, it's a verse and a chorus that just repeats over and over and over again. Every lyric to that song by the end of your first listen to that song. And I think that really, really accomplishes the intention of creating a sing-along song. Now, dance songs, and that is, if your intention when writing a song is to create a dance song, is to make the listener, get up off that thing, then there's a bunch of like really, really tried and true techniques. And all of a sudden the vocals or the story or the song, from a lyrical and often melodic standpoint, becomes completely secondary. And what you're focusing on a dance song is the groove. And whether you're talking, James Brown or Daft Punk, like, your intention is to make somebody dance, and everything, every decision that you make, from the tempo and BPM of the song to to time signature to the key in which the song is written in, is going to be to create a dance floor for somebody to to dance on. So you're gonna be in these tempos that are pretty basic for or not basic, but pretty standard for dance music, somewhere between 100 and 120 BPM, right around a subdivision of a human heartbeat. It's almost always going to be in this 4/4 time. You're going to rely really, really heavily on things like your kick drum and auxiliary percussion to create movements outside of that that straight 1 2 3 4. You're gonna rely a lot more heavily on a more complex bass line to to keep somebody moving. And what you're going to do with the dance song, especially a longer dance song, is you're gonna kind of add these little Easter eggs throughout the song to keep somebody engaged while continuing to dance. And I could, we could all, name countless dance tunes from the 1950s onto the modern era. The way people choose to dance, their dancing styles change, but really, like the meat and potatoes of a dance song has not really changed that much. I was in a conversation just a couple of weeks ago, and the move from disco to modern techno is not 6 degrees of separation. It's it's a pretty quick jump. And so I think that that you want to focus on those elements, and some great great productions of dance music can be found kind of all over the place. The first one that that jumped in my head was Rock With You off of Off the Wall, the Michael Jackson tune. Obviously a ton of of current EDM. Daft Punk had that huge record, or huge couple records about a decade ago. There is so much to harvest from the lexicon of dance music, from just from the last 40 years or so. But I think that if you listen to like Last Dance from from the disco era, or and like plug in popular EDM song, you actually find more commonalities than you find differences in these songs. And so I think that is that's definitely worth exploring. I was in music production class, and I mean if I played a tune from Random Access Memories, Daft Punk, and Chic, like these kind of disco era songs, then you wouldn't, I could interchange them with each other, because really, it's about that 4-on-the-floor rhythm. It's about these bass lines, and then just like melodic textures to keep a person engaged throughout. So if your intention is to make somebody dance, then you should dive into the song or into the production with just that intention. And that kind of leads me to the kind of more broader, the broader category that was sort of hard for me to really like buttoned up in a tight little cubby, and that was the music that's there just to display virtuosity. And this, this kind of includes to me, records like Kind of Blue and Bitches Brew and all these like great, great jazz records, and also includes, a ton of, things like, like math metal or math rock and these, and some jam band stuff where the entire intention of the record production is to display the virtuosity of either that musician or the group of musicians that are performing it. And so if that's the case in production, what you lean so much more on the players and try to, capture that take, that moment in time into, in something like, a math rock, the precision is like what you're looking for versus a jazz record where it's, kind of the overall vibe. You want this push and pull going. And so I think that the display, if your intention is to display the virtuosity of the musicians, that's a really, really broad avenue that you're able to manage as a producer. And for you, you're just trying to, you're trying to paint with actually as translucent a color as you can as a producer to put the focus on just the players and the players as, as they are in that point in time and as they wrote the music. And so those to me are like sort of the categories of, of different productions. And again, I wanted to make this a really, really general video. I was asked to keep it under an hour, and I can be really, really gabby if you let me about any one of these things. So it's a good thing that I'm in my dining room and not in the studio, and I'm not really able to give you real-time examples of this stuff. But once again, I just really, really want to hammer home the importance of the intention and what you're trying to get your music to do. And then lean everything entirely into that intention. And it's your job as the person producing to present the music as you see it. And so sometimes it's up to you to decide what is actually the main course of the song if you're a chef, If you're a chef in a restaurant, you are not going to spend a lot more time making the garnish look fancier than the main dish. So always focus on the main dish and let everything else be garnished to support that main dish when you're producing a song or a record or whatever it is. And if you have any doubts as to, I was going to bring this example up earlier or maybe in another video, but if you have any doubts as to the importance of music to manipulate somebody or to manipulate the listener and really dictate to them how you're telling them that they should be feeling, I want you to think about, a film. And I want you to think about that film if there was no music or completely different music in it. The music in, the score and that the score and the music editing in a movie can really, really, really just dictate to somebody what you're supposed to be feeling right now. And if you don't believe me, like go to the famous Ridley Scott film Gladiator and find the most epic battle sequence that you can from that movie, hugely scored by Hans Zimmer. I think did the score for that film, just like this kind of masterpiece of a score and like really intense filmmaking. And then I want you to take out that hugely epic score by Hans Zimmer and I want you to put in yakety sax.